All right, so another build is completed. This one was a pretty fun one to build because the person that needed this was a Escape from Tarkov player. It's Escape from Tarkov is a new game out, basically in beta mode still, but people are playing it, and they were using a system with the um, i7 4790 processor that came out back in 2017 with the RX 580. And they were mentioning that it was glitching on them and things like that. So what I suggested, well, hey, you can upgrade. They bought this PC for about $400 altogether. This chip with the RX 580 and a hard drive, and my immediate thought was the RX 580 is a good card. It's probably not that card. It's probably the computer chip. So we upgraded to the Ryzen 5 3600. So we got this one out of there and put the RX 5 Ryzen 5 3600 in there. So this build is the Ryzen 5 3600. This is the RX 580 right here is actually pictured the 5500 XT, but we used their RX 580, and this is the only picture I have of it because we actually sold it really quickly. I put it together. They were here ready to go. They just grabbed it before I could take a picture. So this is the best picture I got of it, but I have the build video after this. So anyway, that's what this is. And long story short, they threw once we put the processor together properly and put the graphics card back in there, the game ran extremely smoothly. So that just goes to show you the Ryzen 5 3600 series chips are very good. And obviously, if you go with the Zen 3 Ryzen 5 5600, which is out now as well, you're going to get just that much more performance if you're willing to, pay for the upgrade. So that's where we are now. And let me show you the price because I want to make sure you understand what the price means down at the bottom. So let me show you that real quick. So with this build, we did go a little bit heavy on the motherboard. But if you were to build this, let me show you kind of what generally to think about. We went with an X570 motherboard mainly because with this budget we could afford it because they weren't paying for a brand new RX 580. But with this specific build, this is what we did. We went with the X570 motherboard, or Aorus Elite 3600 XT. Oh, we went with the XT. I thought it was, 35 Ryzen 5 3600 XT. They had the RX 580. 800 watt power supply, and anyway, normal storage, 500 gigabytes of storage, 60 gigabytes of RAM at 3600 megahertz. That's important, with some RGB fans and the NZXT H510. If you were to do this all on your own, all in, you'd be in about $960. It's a fantastic build. Maybe substitute the RX 580 for the the 5500 XT. That might be a good substitute. Maybe even substitute that for the 1650 Super. That's a good substitute. They're all about the same kind of performance. So I hope that this kind of gives you an idea of what the price is in the description. You could save money by simply going with for instance, a B550 board. There's B550 boards with Wi-Fi for just $110, for instance. So you could save some money there. You could also have gone with just the Ryzen 5 3600, which is a $200-ish chip. You might be able to find it for cheaper if you go to like Micro Center. So you could have saved probably around $80 to $100 on this build by just kind of diminishing the value of some of the other parts so that you would have been fine. But the fact that we could put this in there and get a really nice motherboard at an X570 so that it's easy to upgrade in the future, that was kind of nice to do. So if there's any questions, leave them in the comments, but let's go ahead and get on to the build. Okay, this build video is going to be a little simpler. Let me just show you what I've done. Obviously, you can see we're in the BIOS. We haven't installed Windows yet. It's a new BIOS, but let me talk about the BIOS first, and then I'll kind of jump over here and talk about the build. Right now, I can see that we're using, obviously, the X570 motherboard, which is a very high-end motherboard. Well, not the highest end, but an X570 motherboard, you're already in good shape. We're BIOS version F11, so I'm going to go on the internet at this website to see if I need to update that BIOS to the most recent, which I will. If so, I'm just going to go into what they call QFlash with the new BIOS and update it. And I'll make sure I do that if that's necessary. One thing also is once I know that the BIOS is updated, I'm going to go ahead and fix the memory to be going at the speed we want it to be going at. Right now the speed is at 2138. The memory in this RAM is at 3600. You want fast RAM memory, so we'll make sure we fix that in the settings. It's called XMP profile. So we'll make sure that we do that. So everything is looking good. What I want to do though is after I check the BIOS, I'm going to install Windows. I have an installer right here. I'm going to basically plug that in, and it's very easy. Download this from the internet. You plug it in there, and it installs Windows, and after Windows is installed, I will update all the drivers and get the drivers for both the graphics card and the computer going. Now the graphics card I have right now is a 5500 XT. We're not going to use this obviously at the final build, but it's what I have in stock right now, so I'm using it. What you can see on here is you have your RAM sticks plugged in here. The motherboard will tell you which slots to put them in. You see there's 4 slots, so you can add more as you go. Just make sure you add the same frequency and the same latency. The computer chip's right underneath this fan. A lot of videos out there on how to install it, but basically with an AMD chip, you simply lift up a lever, plop the chip in there, and then put the fan on top. It's actually really darn easy. So after I did all that, I also installed in this little section here, right here, along this where it says that little X570 plate. Underneath there is your M.2 drive. That's a very fast storage device. It's 500 gigabytes. We're going to use that to install Windows on, and you can use that to put your main games on. Eventually upgrade storage to hard drives and stuff like that as you need. But you want to make sure your operating system's on something fast like that, which we do. Then we have the graphics card in the PCIe slot, and then we're going to put all this in the case once we've installed Windows and installed the drivers. But this is it. I just want to make sure everything's working. So it is looking good. And let me get that BIOS updated, and then get all the drivers installed, and you should be good to go. All right, so on my computer, you can see the F11 version was actually way back at the end of last year. So I went ahead and went all the way to F31E. This is the one I downloaded. It's the most recent. And that's what I'm updating your BIOS to right now. And I also went to this is just on the motherboard website. I also went to the drivers, and I got all the most important drivers: your audio, your chipset, your LAN. You don't need RAID. Most likely, you're just going to use normal storage. This is for storage. You're going to use normal storage. So I didn't do any of these. But I did also your LAN and Bluetooth. I got this most recent one and this most recent Wi-Fi for the 2004 servers. So anyway, I got all that downloaded, and that's what I'm going to put on your computer. And I'm just making sure I'm not touching the computer as it's going through the BIOS update. So I'm just letting it do it. Let's see, it says current right here, F11. It's updating to F31E. Yeah, it's actually pretty easy to find as you do this a few times, but a lot of videos on YouTube on how to do it. Just find the BIOS update button and make sure you do it safely. That's it. We're back in. You can see up here it's now F31E, which is fantastic. Now it's still recognizing our RAM, but let me see where to go to. Let's see, I think it's in advanced mode. Let me go to your extreme memory profile. I'm going to go to enable that. Let's see how to enable this. I don't always work with this guy. Let's see, auto. Let me enter it. Hang on. Oh, there it is, profile 1. What is profile 1 though? Oh, there it is. It automatically recognizes it. Okay, profile 1 is 3600. That's what your speed is. So yeah, we're definitely going to save that. So I'm going to save and exit. And save and exit setup. And let's see what happens here. And make sure it recognizes that speed. Alright, now it's working. Memory frequency is now 3605.18, which is what we wanted. So now it's time to, everything's uploaded for the BIOS, everything's good here. Now I'm just going to install Windows and install the drivers, and we should be good to go. Alright, everything here is pretty straightforward. We just put in the installation media into the motherboard, just into a USB slot right back there. And it's running Windows install. You just have to, kind of tell what drive to put it on. And when you have a clean computer, you just basically select the only drive you put in there, which is that 500 gigabyte drive. So I'm going to wait for this to finish up. And like I said, install all the drivers, and we should be game ready. All right, so I'm running the Valley benchmark, one of the more popular benchmarks out there, and it's running very smooth, looking good. And this is with the 5500 XT, of course, but the 580 I'm sure would do just as good. Right now it's 108 FPS, but our average right now on Extreme HD is at 69 or so. So I'm just letting it do its thing now, but this is very, very smooth. I mean, it's looking great. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Yeah, I look forward to downloading that game and seeing if it works out. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and it did end up working out. Essentially, started playing the game, and it was extremely smooth, no lagginess, nothing like that. So anyway, good experience, good build. Let me know if there's any questions in the comments. Again, RX 580, 5500 XT, 1650 Super, 1660 Ti. If you can get any of those like around the same price, around $200, those are all very semi-equal graphics cards. Just go to user benchmarks to figure out which one you might want. I think the 1650 Super is probably the better one of those four. Anyway, thank you for watching.